My name is Dee Kearney, and I am situated here in Dublin in the Liberties College, which is 5 minutes walk from the centre of the capital city. I've been here for the last 27 years working specifically with the youth work programme at level 5. Prior to that, I had a very different background, but I have always been involved in community development and youth work. So I've had a background that has been rich, both as a volunteer and certainly now as a coordinator of the youth work programme. So I think before I start, a bit like Ilona there, I need to put a context to Ireland and how it has influenced and shaped youth work as we know it in Ireland today. First of all, Ireland is an island to the west coast of Europe. Green, because that's our national colour. We have a population of approximately 5 million, of which over 1.5 million young people are under the age of 25. So we've got a young population, which is fantastic. We were a British colony for over 700 years, and we did not become a republic until 1949. The origins of youth work in Ireland were immersed in our struggle for independence and hanging on to some kind of identity that we would have had in terms of our religion. Currently in Ireland at the moment, 26 regions or counties, as we call them, are part of the Republic of Ireland, and 6 counties, which is a land border, are still part of Great Britain. In the past, there was a lot of conflict on the island of Ireland. Thankfully, in the last 10 to 15 years, that has been resolved and we live side by side peacefully, thankfully. Ireland joined the EU in 1973, and we became, we benefited hugely from our membership of the EU. Even to this kind of college that I work in is completely funded from EU funds. I'll just go back a little bit and just talk to you a bit about our independence and how youth work came to be. When we became a republic in 1949, we were basically fairly bankrupt. And at the time, with the consent of the people, successive governments put the focus on developing our economy. And we were predominantly a Catholic country. Great Britain is predominantly a Protestant country. So we handed over the social fabric of our society in terms of our hospitals, our schools, our youth work, our orphanages, our disability services. We handed all that over to the Catholic Church, while the government basically looked at the economy. And we have a saying in Ireland, power corrupts, absolute power absolutely corrupts. And as we became so dependent and governed by the church, there was a struggle in our country to move away from the church. And we had a situation in Ireland with our youth projects. Virtually all of our youth work and youth projects were run by the Catholic Church. The majority of people who ran the youth work projects were volunteers, local family members, parents of participants, and the key organizer was usually a priest. There was a kind of a backlash against this, and a lot of youth work in the background. The very few professional youth workers that were employed sought to move away from the church. So what they did is they kind of got together and campaigned to the government for a national youth work service. We were very fortunate. In 1981, the first university in Ireland, Maynooth University, started a professional youth work degree programme. And it really wasn't until 2001, following a catalogue of child protection cases within the Catholic Church, that the government started to put some value on youth work. and implemented the Statutory Youth Work Act of 2001. That it has been eroded would be fair to say, that they have pulled back. Ilona was talking there about the importance of key stakeholders, both in policymaking and also in government, being aware of what youth work is and what's going on the ground. And in the origins of our Youth Work Act, there was one part of it known as NIWAC, where we had the heads of different government departments, the head of our police force, the heads of our youth work organisations, together deciding the focus of youth work. That has been disbanded back in 2017 and is yet to be formally introduced. So that's just kind of an overview of Ireland and where we are. So really what I'm going to talk about today is level 5. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the college here, the profile of the students, our teaching team, delivering this QQI award, and the different, we call them modules or fields of study, the whole philosophy of the programme and how we review and evaluate that consistently. So this is the college that I work in, the Liberties College. It's right in the heart of the city, as I said. We don't tend to have that many days with such a blue sky, but it looks good there. It's a listed building, so it's a fairly beautiful building. The Liberties College where I work, we were the first college in Ireland to implement a level 5 youth work award. And that was done in 1994. And the college was chosen because one of our locations being in the centre of the city. Currently at the moment, our college has about 700 students. We have mainly, all of our programmes are run at level 5. We do have 1 or 2 level 6 awards. They are in social care and computers. Under the Irish system in further education, colleges are only allowed to run level 5 and level 6, but mostly level 6, 7 and 8 are universities, and level 4, level 1, 2, 3 and 4 tend to be community-based programs. And that is all linked in with our funding and with our teaching council. And there's a lot of restrictions around who can run what. And there's quite a lot of competition around different colleges to establish what type of course they want to run and get the students in. We are part of the City of Dublin Education and Training Board, and they are the programme and quality managers of the whole of Dublin cities for their education. On our national framework, level 5 is situated in the centre. There are programmes that run at level 1, 2, 3 and 4. Level 5 is what we do, and higher education tends to start at level 6. All of our main primary schools and secondary schools where young people attend mainstream education would be considered at a pass level 5 standard, except very high achieving students who have a higher level 5 and they progress automatically into university. For a lot of students who don't achieve the grades necessarily to go on to university, and we would say they're at a pass level 5 standard, they would progress into further education, maybe in an area or a discipline that they feel confident that they want to progress in university, and hence youth work. But level 5 is where we are pitched at, and it's considered in the centre. I know you can't see that, it's very small, but the PowerPoint will be up there. Like everywhere else, we have our national framework of qualifications, and it sets out here where level 5 is in terms of competencies, your knowledge, your skill, your attitudes, but also the introduction of a theoretical underpinning for your studies. So I'll just move it on here now and show you. We talk about how we break it down, the level 5 award, and the level 5 award is made up of 120 credits. And there are some subjects or modules that are compulsory, and there are some that are optional. and there are some that we put on because they specifically are a requirement for university, or we feel that enhance the students' development. QQI Level, which is our Quality Qualifications of Ireland, Level 5 specifically states the purpose is to enable the learner to acquire the knowledge, the skills and the competencies to work under supervision in a youth work context, or to progress on to further and higher education. So it is very much like Ilona was saying there. However, you have a portfolio. We literally can have exams, and it is in the formal sector, although youth work, their practice is located in the informal sector. The actual qualification of level 5 is the formal sector. When the modules were being redeveloped and rewritten, and I was involved in that, we very much look at this sentence here, that evidence of assessment may take the form of written, oral, graphic, audio, visual, or a combination of any of those, which is very useful for us on youth work, because we have been so creative in terms of our assessment. I would think that we have been videoing here with cameras and recording things for a lot longer than most other programs in this college anyway. The assessment techniques that we can choose from are assignments, projects, skills demonstration, which are fantastic because they can be done as a group and they can be practical skills. Examinations, which don't always have to be written unless it specifically states. Examinations can be skills-based again, and then learner records, which are all about reflective learning. The structure of the youth work programme as we currently have it is not a million miles away from Ilona's talking about. We just talk about understanding youth work, which is about the historical development and more theoretical underpinning. Young people in society, a sociology module, which again looks at the young people and the role that they play in society. Working with young people, skills-based, all facilitation, presentations. Work experience, the students at level 5 have to complete 60 hours in a placement setting under supervision, which is mandatory. They don't have a choice about that. Communications, again, required for entry into university. It's a lot of skills-based writing. Substance abuse issues for youth work, looking at the whole area of addiction. Community development, again, as it says there, and then social justice principles. And we include word processing on this award, which is an additional module, because we find that a lot of the students are not necessarily are not necessarily good at actually doing assignments online. They tend to do things, scroll, do searches, but not necessarily writing documents or PowerPoints or reports. So that's kind of an overview of, we obviously have to, make sure that we assess, the skills, the knowledge, the attitudes and the theories of young people. But what I want to really talk to you a bit more is about what I feel here is, what I would say is the heart of the youth work programme at level 5, what actually really makes it work. What are you looking for that is not necessarily said in any curriculum? And I think that when we start to write the curriculum, we have to look at what is the focus. What is this program designed for? Is it for the student's personal development? Is it for progression to higher education? Is it for progression to employment? Or is it because the program writers that are currently writing the program have a liking for research, so they're including a lot of research modules on the award? I would definitely say when the level 5 was first delivered here in the Liberties College, it was all about students' progression to employment. At the time, we were trying to professionalize youth work. As I had previously said, the majority of people were volunteers. So the whole thing of introducing a theoretical and academic underpinning, and level 5 was seen to be the starting point. So the majority of my students at level 5 would progress back into the organizations that they were already volunteering with. Some progressed on to university, but now that has completely changed, and now the majority of my students are much younger, and they usually all try and get into university. And I'll discuss that in a bit more detail later on. Okay, I absolutely feel this is core to everything at level 5, is the philosophy of your program, what actually makes it work. The teaching team is critical. In further education in Ireland, when you are employed by a college, you may initially be employed specifically for a discipline, i.e. you might come in as a nurse, as a youth worker, but in further education, you could tend to find that next year you're actually teaching on another area. So trying to keep the same teaching team going with the skill set is very, very important. You have to look at the context of the students' lives and the backgrounds that they are coming from. The only criteria that we have to come on to level 5 is you must have a level 5 standard or experience in a sector, in a related field. So I would have had students that had no formal academic qualifications, but maybe 10 years voluntary experience. And on interview, I would have accepted that as being more than sufficient for somebody to progress on. The majority of our students all are involved in youth work projects, mostly old, and the age profile would be between 17, and I've had up to the age of 70 on the programme. We would believe it's absolutely central to the success of the programme that we involve sector personnel on the teaching team. Maybe not full-time, but what we currently have is somebody from the National Youth Council of Ireland who is involved on a 1 day a week coming into the students. It adds a whole different flavour. There's somebody who's doing day-to-day work currently in the sector, as opposed to, whilst I am still part of a lot of voluntary organisations, I would believe that it's crucial to have the input of somebody from the sector. We have a study support for the students built into the timetable, which is consistent. So it's there all of the time. So they have one subject in the morning, then they might have an hour for study support. And study support is where we sit with the students, usually on an individual basis to start with, look at what their understanding is, how do they go about doing assessments, etc., etc. And then it might develop into group study support where 4 or 5 will be sitting together looking at how do we do this assignment or not. And usually it tails off as the year goes on, but it's built in from the very, very start. I would think this is really important when you're looking at developing a curriculum, is looking at integration of your assessments. Every year at the start of the year, we sit down as a team and look at what we're teaching and what overlap that there is. Our QQI system allows for one assessment, one piece of assessment to be used three times across the whole programme. So if you look at this slide here, it's a fairly rough thing, but we would do something like this. We would write down, what are the teaching modules, what is the assessment, and where they are can be lap over, and where this prevents the students from, well, it reduces down the workload of the student, but it also is, it makes the whole programme much more connected for the students as well. The whole concept of universal design is very important here, particularly when we're trying to make it accessible to all, so that we're trying to allow most students to do their best, not necessarily be the best, but to do their best. And we offer across the whole programme a range of different assessments. So we tend to start off teaching much more practical based, a lot more presentations rather than facilitations. A lot about, your attitudes, your values, the talking about your communities, to give the students a buy-in so that they actually want to come to college, so that they're actually feeling that they're succeeding and they're successful in this environment. And also that, you know, I think I've said it in the next slide. No, I haven't, sorry. If you go, but if with universal design, we have a number of students that present with dyslexia and other challenges. It's really important that that's identified fairly early on in the academic year so that we can put supports in place for that student. Digital literacy, a lot of now following on from COVID, a lot of emphasis is on the virtual space. So we have carried on teaching 1 day a week online for the students. And some of our assessments are completed in a digital platform, for example, something like Padlet or Google Jamboards. And we use all of those different assessment tools to allow every student to be the best. We constantly review and evaluate our programs. At the end of every year, both on an ongoing basis, we sit down with the student, what is working well for you, what's not working well for you, as well as a team, as well as a larger college, and then as well as a larger sector. I think I'm running out of time, so I'll really finish up soon. I would believe this is important. I feel we know we're doing it right when a teacher says, I don't have to worry about what to teach, but I'm going to change how I teach it. That I'm going to, instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to now do a facilitation. And we have the autonomy to do that within the modules. And I love to hear a student say, when am I going to fit in doing this piece of work because I've got college or I've got a social life or I've got to do part-time work. And they're not as they were at the start of the year saying, how do I do this? I haven't a clue. So I feel that that's a great measurement of the progression of a student's learning. So just a quick summary then is the skill set of the team, very, very important, that you have all types of interests, that it's not all academic focus, that there's some tutors and team that like to do facilitation, play the games, explore the attitudes, challenge the students around their attitudes. And that doesn't tend to happen too frequently in other more academic programs, whereas in youth work, we would believe it's very important to challenge the whole time. It's crucial to have the sector personnel involved. From when we were writing the level 5 and we were reviewing it, we had personnel from the universities and from key organisations involved in that, so that the programme became immersed in the sector. We have study support is built into the timetable. We see that as being absolutely central. The virtual learning platform supporting the students. We have a Moodle, which is like a library in the sky. Each tutor, each teacher has their own page where students can access either videos or links, etc. We have constant tutorials with the students throughout the academic year where you sit one-to-one, and we use them as assessments as well. We usually record them and we use them as assessments. We are very clear around giving formative feedback to students before, not just summative feedback, but, you know, what are you doing? What are you not doing? And that's scheduled into the timetable and their calendar of assessments. I mentioned that earlier on, if a student presents with a specific need or disability, we're able to do that needs assessment fairly early on. We have established long established relationships with different youth work programs where our students are on placement. They have to complete the 60 hours. We keep in contact and we visit all of those projects. Sometimes if it's far away from Dublin, it may be Zoom, but more often than not, it's a visit that's completed. We have established links to university, not formalised, but informally done. The majority of our students progress to the nearest geographical university, which is Maynooth. We regularly have the universities in here to the college, canvassing for the students, but promoting, you know, why you should come to our university. As a team, we have both formal and informal meetings. Formal in terms of 2-3 times a year, and at the end of the year, there's reviews and evaluation meetings. We have informal meetings in the staff rooms. We have introduced about 2 years ago, which is really, really successful. We have a pre-results meeting where we identify students that are looking like they're not going to get the full award. And that is very important for a student because there's so much funding attached to the completion of award. So except in absolute exceptional circumstances, you only get the funding once to complete a level 5. If you want more funding, you have to progress up to level 6. So staying at level 5 and failing at level 5 has significant monetary consequences as well as other consequences for students. So this pre-result meeting allows us to identify the students that are at risk and support them before the end of the academic year. As is probably in most colleges, we have a result approval panel. We put a lot of emphasis on constantly evaluating, not just with the students, but also with the team. Students are asked to give their, on a one-to-one, on a group, to the greater college, and then to the ETB in general about how things worked and how things didn't work.